Alright, so I like the design of this for the piston squirters, and I like the design of the separated case for oil control. So it's just a matter, I can integrate this down here by cutting this off and going like that, making it. Not that hard to do. And this is a 76 and earlier case where it's shaped round. The 77 cases and later are shaped like this where they get this flat spot down in here. So they're more squared off. So I'll just use a later case in this one if I use a Sportster case. So I'll be using a 77 later case. So that's all different. Motor mounts are not going to work no matter what. So I have to figure up that. This transmission is not going to work, so that's going to be cut off. And then you got to figure out how you're going to attach something to this case to make it stick to the other side of the case that you're going to use. Now, what are you going to use for a left case? Well, the one in that box is a great case because it already fits. So now it's just a matter of taking the left case off of that big ass motor and sticking to this, and then you have to make it because it looks like this. Levo, shovel, they all look the same, except it's just taller decked and wider deck. So to make that work, you're going to have to add material thickness in here because this is too narrow. See how fat this is? Actually, go on the right side. See the size of that? And see down here, see the difference? So that has to be built up. And then that's going to have a bigger bore, so it's going to be spreading apart even more, probably about 3/4 of an inch more to make room for the big bore. So you're getting kind of big. So what's going to wind up happening is I'm going to wind up taking the case, cutting this thing out of here, down to about here. Give yourself a nice good weld area. And then you take a big chunk of aluminum that's about 3 inches thick, and you put a 3-inch spacer between here and that case over there, and then you weld a piece onto this case, or bolt it if you want to. You can do it either way. So basically you can have a middle piece. You can have a thin Sportster case, a big thick Evo case, and then you're going to have a plate in the middle. It's going to be 2.5, 3 inches thick, wide, whatever you want to call it, tall. And that'll allow you to put this big bore on there. Now, if you go that big bore, you have to go even wider. So that's how you make these things work. Now this here, don't have any way of holding this by one hand, ain't going to work. Alright, so let's see what we got here. So this one's out. Waste of money. You want a case? Got one. Okay, this one here. You're going to put this together like this. Scrape, scrape, scrape. This goes in here like this. So we got to space this up about the height of a box. You know what? I just happen to have a box right here. Boom. Too high of a box. Need a lower box. Lower box around here? Probably not. A piece of wood. There we go. Now we're talking. Alright. I don't need none of that crap. So there you go. That's how that works there. How did that camera get locked in here? So you need a piece of aluminum to fill up all this gap in here. And over here. Oh, that's not the box I wanted. It's this box over here, I think. Oh yeah, there we go. These case rounds I bought over here. Oh, there's a piece of metal we need. There, that's called a gap filler. See? You cut that off, you weld that down there, so you can adjust the height to whatever you need it to be. So, boom. So you need something like this. So you take a big chunk of aluminum, cut that out, or you can just take pieces of aluminum, weld it together. Remember, this is not a continuous case. See, there's nothing attaching these pieces. Straight section down here, straight section down here. That's just a piece of plate, and you got a little gap in the middle. If you put an oil pan down here, then that doesn't matter. And obviously that's just a spacer right there, so you don't have to have a big round donut, you just need a piece of plate. That's all it takes. So, tripod's in my way because I want to bang my head on the toolbox. So, now what are we looking at here? So now we're going to see what this dimension here goes to here. Now right now our cylinder's not square, it's pointed downhill right now. This needs to go uphill a little bit. So we need a little uphill spacing. What do we got? Uphill, oh, parallels. Right here, uphill spacing. I think 1 inch is too much. ½ inch looks good. Okay, what happened to my tripod? Ah, it's over here now. Yeah, this is called mock-up. You gotta figure out all this crap. This is how you figure it out. You get it to a point where you can work on it. Okay, that was a little bit too much mock-up. But it's close enough. Okay. We need a couple long push rods. There's our long push rods. This camera's a pain in the ass. Okay, so there's our envisioning tools. So, see where the push rods are at, the lifters are at, and see how the push rods are going like that. That doesn't work very well. To see this cylinder, see right now we're centered between these studs, but to see this cylinder is not centered on our case. See, it takes two of them. The other cylinder would be over here. You can't do that. It needs to go backwards a long ways. So now we got to figure out how much we're going to move that thing back to make it line up. And chances are, to make that line up there, we're going to have a big gap over here, so there would be room for the second cylinder on here without having to cut this metal all the way. And you can see how we're probably going to add a little extra material in there for height. But see, I'm not sure because I don't know what rod length or any of that stuff we're going to have available to use. So that's kind of up in the air right now. But whenever you go to a big bore, you have to go higher to make room because you have an angle here. It's 45-degree V. You have to have a certain distance between here to not hit. And you have to go to a certain height to get that dimension because the higher you go up, the wider it gets real quick. So that's why all these later motors, this has a real low deck right here. This motor in the case there is going to have a real high deck on it. Because I had to go to a 4.3 bore, or 4.4 bore, you had to do that. So, go like that. So first thing I'll do is figure out this offset we need. So right off the bat, that needs to go to the other side of that stud. There we go. Okay, that's a big improvement right there. The height is wrong, we need to come up a lot higher though. Okay, one thing at a time. We work in 2 dimensions around here, not 3. Okay, so now you look at your push rod angle, and you want to make sure it's semi-close. So, you see how it's a lot better than what it was. It's still off a little bit, but at least we're getting in the neighborhood. Now you also look at our V angle over here. See now that we have room for our V in here. So when you're this high up in the air, you got room for your V angle. Now how tall is this motor getting to be? Well, it's getting to be a pretty tall motor. But how much taller is that than that? I don't know. So you get out another tool. It's called a tape measure. How tall is a stock motor? Well, on a Sportster, stock motor is is center of the crank, about 17 inches. On a shovel head, center of the crank, they're about the same, about 17 inches. Now we know evils are taller, so they're probably more like 17.5 inches, maybe 18. Okay, this one here, right now it would be about right there, 17 inches. Now that's a nice number. I like that. That means we are very, very close to a stock height motor that will fit in any bike. That was unexpected. Now you can see how much gap I added to it. I'm going to have to lengthen the case by an inch plus. That's about 1 1/8 increase right now. It's not hard to do. We can add material. Adding material is not a problem. Okay, now the next problem is our location this way. See how we have an issue right here? The case is way low relative to the bore. You also see how the center of the deck is way below the cylinder center line. Center line of the cylinder is way up here. So this needs to go up a long ways. So we need to put a bigger one of these under here to get this flat. And then we need to move this case up in the air. So that big box that we just had, that one's going to be coming back into view here. So we're back playing again. So it's all right. We like to play around here. And we need to move down here a little bit further so we have room to work too. So there's our case spacer. Okay, there's a good starting point. Let's work at things square, so we'll do that. So about right there is where we want it to be. This goes bye-bye. Okay, this goes over here. Oh, we got interruptions. Okay, I'll be back.